So Karen asked me to talk about hope and recovery, and the way that shows up for me is in slogans like, I may not be where I want to be, but I'm not where I used to be. It's also in the AA promises on the page 83 to 84 and how they show up for me in my life. And understanding the serenity prayer. I didn't understand anything in that when I first read it, and now it has more depth and weight and it's making more sense to me. Also in God's miracles for me, so I can actually do things like be polite to my ex, stay emotionally sober at work and with my family. So what brought me here, my rock bottom was I went through a divorce and my partner left. And for me, my family falling apart was like the worst thing that could have ever happened to me. So I started in a puddle on the floor. I could get up and make chicken nuggets. And when the kids went to visit their dad, I would just pace the house. That's all I could do, and breathe. But now, I don't make chicken nuggets so much. And I'm more peaceful and actually happy when my kids get to visit their dad. And that's a miracle. And for me, the serenity is accepting the things I cannot change. Then my sister brought me to Al-Anon. I just cried for the first 6 meetings. They say show up and stay for the first 6. That's all I did. But I showed up, and that's all that counts. That's all you have to do. So for me, the hope in that was out of that pain and working the steps, I can face my fears, and I can make my amends, and I can let it go and move on. Then my sister brought me to my sponsor, and I thought she would help me put my family back together again. And in that way, that would be me being God, and I was hoping she would fill in for God as well. And I was also willing to help too, because I have a degree in psychology, right? So I was going to fix all this myself. I figured, hey, 6 months, I should have this all wrapped up. And then she said, well, within the first year, we're going to do this. And it was just like, what? I'm not staying here that long. I like to stay in my head, not in my heart, and that way I can keep that sense of control. I don't have to feel my feelings, I don't have to make mistakes, and I don't have to make mistakes and keep practicing every day, changing my thinking and changing my behavior. So when I'm fixing my own problems, that's my broken brain, trying to fix my broken brain. So hope for me now is I ask for God's strength first. Sometimes I can do that, sometimes it's 24 hours later. But I can pause and turn sometimes. I can pray, I can meditate, and I can actually wait. That's a new gift that I've learned how to do. So again, surrendering to His will. And I can be brutally honest with myself. Sometimes that shows up in journaling. And then anytime I'm experiencing any kind of conflict, for me that feels like irritability, discontent, or restless, I can humbly tell my sponsor the crazy things that I've thought up and what's going on in my head. And I can understand how my character defects show up in my thoughts and my actions. And then we talk about how to do a situation differently the next time. I thought there was going to be one mistake, but apparently that just keeps going. It's like a life journey of that. But there was glimmers of hope, because now I can figure out, sometimes every once in a while in 24 hours, I can figure out, oh, I think I'm doing something wrong. I've actually had a couple moments where I've actually figured it out in the moment, and then I call all my recovery people and go, I did it! It's going to happen again, I just know it. That's another miracle. And I don't beat myself up when I make those mistakes, when I make those amends. I get a 3-minute rule, so I can bitch and whine and have self-pity, but only for 3 minutes. So I've got that timer on my watch. And then I let go of the drama and the gossip, so there's a little less adrenaline, and somehow I end up more peaceful when I do those things that way. I remind myself that my feelings only last for a little while. It's like a wave. It's just going to come. I can just sit in it. I can just breathe. It is going to pass. All that sounds pretty simple, but it's a simple program for complicated people. And one of the promises says, I'll know how to handle situations that used to baffle us before. So it's like, hang in, that's well worth it. So what happened to me recently was my stepson hasn't talked to me in a year, and I heard that he's going to call me. So I thought, okay, that's great. We're gonna suggest we go into therapy. We're gonna have this long conversation about what he wants the relationship to be. I had all these great ideas, and then this little thought said, maybe you should call your sponsor first. So I called her and I said, this is what I have in mind. She says, oh yeah. Anytime she says, oh yeah, I know I'm not on the right track. So she says, I want you to write this down, because sometimes I have to write down. I have no words. I have no information. I didn't grow up with that kind of information of how to handle conflict in people. And she said, write this down. Say, I'm so glad you called. I was like, okay, that's a good way to start. Much better. Okay, so what's next? She says, that's it. I was like, are you kidding me? That's all I get to say. It's like, I'm going to have to practice that one. So for me, that's reminding me that when that fear and that panic sort of comes up in my head, I can do that thought stopping. It's not my job to do, that's God's job. And my stepson will probably be a lot happier. So then my sponsor decided I should go to church. I was just like, yeah, that's not gonna work for me. I'm not giving up coffee or wine. But I went, and what I actually found out that I gave up was I stopped blaming and criticizing, orchestrating, manipulating, judging, stomping, gossiping, sarcasm, and isolating. Oh yeah, and there was that rage, anger, and bitterness that also sort of subsided. So for me, I get the adrenaline rushes, but then I get the crashes. So I try to stay out of that. I also, going to church, learned how not to have food hangovers. I've lost a few pounds. I'm not afraid to be alone, and I'm not afraid of not having enough money. I'm not needing to be a perfect mom. I don't have to be a perfect daughter, sister, worker, or friend. So my hope there is that I let go and I let God, and again, I get that serenity and peace. I know I'm on the right track. Another promise is God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. So I believe God was there for me in the divorce when I hit that rock bottom, because I had to choose him. I had nothing else. He was there when my sister took me to Al-Anon and to my sponsor and to church. And then I started the 12-step with an incredible group of women that I can call anytime, and I'll be told what I need, not what I want to hear. And I also, beginning to start for me, was the Bible started making sense to me. Because when I first read it, it was just like, what is happening? Why are you writing stuff in parables? Why can you not just be clear? But now it starts to sink in and make sense. So be still and know I am God. I can feel that inside. It resonates with me. It makes sense to me. Women ask me to be their sponsor, so I get to stay in the work and practice that stuff. And I feel peaceful even when I have difficulties, when I have crazy thoughts or big feelings. I can pause in the moment and turn sometimes. My stepfather challenged me with some money issues that was going on, and I actually managed to stay emotionally sober through that. And then I get these sentences in my head. For me, that's how God talks to me. All of a sudden, I'll get an idea that I know that I have no capacity to generate on my own. And I can experience more depth and weight. So that onion coming off the layers, you feel, it feels more real. It feels more understandable. I can sit in my fears and my discomfort and that restlessness, and I don't overeat, and I can actually stay in joy and abundance. And then God removes those defects, and I find myself in a place of neutrality. So I actually went to church. They had cake, and I didn't want to eat the cake. That has never happened to me before. And I remember I'm supposed to be just God's daughter. That's the only thing I'm supposed to be. And then I got married 2 years ago, and I've learned what agape love is. Man, I thought it was all about me. Apparently it's not. And I'm learning how to be kind, how to honor and protect, not seek, and don't keep record of wrongs. Another promise is we get to know a new freedom and a new happiness. So this new way of life has brought me sanity and peace in my life and to the people that I love. So what that has done for me working the 12 steps physically, I sleep better, I have more time and energy, I can journal to find out my feelings and my thoughts. I'm a human being, not a human doer. And I have the 4 F's, I call them, for better health: fitness, food, and fun. Emotionally, I know my boundaries, my needs, and my wants, and an ability to ask for them, whether they're met or not, and without getting defensive as well. feeling and soothing my own feelings, saying no as a complete sentence, identifying and letting go of my fears and resentments, trusting the program, the safe people in my life, and God, accept life in reality, not the fantasy, so romance novels, down the tubes. And I do things that make myself happy. So I started taking salsa dance classes. Let me tell you, that is a workout and a half. And I can laugh at myself, and I can laugh at my recovery. Mentally, I have a quieter mind, so I don't think about what everybody said after I went to an event or what I said. And I'm okay with making mistakes. So that sense of guilt and shame is not as deep as it was. In my relationship, I can let others have their journey and respect and understand not romantic love, but agape love. Spiritually, I have a quieter mind. I can give grace and compassion to others, but also to myself. I find contentment, not necessarily happiness, so reasonably happy in life. Truly knowing that I'm enough, that I'm good enough in my soul and my head. And the purpose of my life is besides my own happiness, and I can allow God to lead my life. The other thing is I could actually stand up here and talk in front of you guys. So that is another recovery thing. Thanks so much for being here.